I'm Linda Lysakowski. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the field of fundraising for about 40 years. And on this podcast, I'm really delighted to welcome my guest, Raja Basu. Raja and I have worked together on a number of projects for about the last 2 years, and I'm really impressed with what he has to say about digital marketing. And I know this is going to be really exciting for you. For years, I've been telling people, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't depend on government fundraising to fund your nonprofit organizations. And now, in recent weeks in the United States, this is becoming more and more clear as a lot of government funding has been cut and people are scrambling trying to figure out how are we going to raise this money. And for a long time, I've been telling people where the money really is in individual giving. And so Raja is going to talk to us about how to use digital marketing to find donors for your organization and get them to give and be consistent givers. So before we get started with the talk about digital marketing, I'd like to ask Raja to introduce himself to you. I know him quite well, but you don't. So Raja, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're located and what you do?
Oh, thanks, Linda. Thanks so much for that lovely introduction of yours. And I've been working for for the past 20 years, really letting it out in the corporate world, and got really fed up of making money for other people, and then decided to quit about 2 years back and work full time for nonprofit. So marketing was always my forte. And over the past 10 years, I've been specializing in digital marketing. And when I came into nonprofits, I found that this is a very effective tool to solve the number one pain point of all nonprofits, big or small, but more for small to mid-sized nonprofits who would otherwise not have those monies to put behind marketing to find new donors for them and also to cultivate their existing set of donors. I've been working for a lot of nonprofits, mostly small to mid-size. And when I was working in the corporate world, I used to only work for, the large names called UNICEF, Habitat for Humanity, and World AIDS Foundation, etc. But now it's a different challenge working for the small ones, really getting them going. I spend time between America, Europe, and India. I run a small nonprofit in India where I've decided to spend most of my time. My family lives in US, and in winter I prefer to stay in the southern shores of France. So that's how it is. So I'm all ready. So what is it that you have to ask me? Feel free.
Okay. Well, first of
What
all,
are
I thought maybe
asking?
it would be good for you to explain. Most people, I think, understand digital marketing, but I was in the field of fundraising 40 years ago when we didn't even have email yet. That's how long I've been doing this. So maybe just give us a quick summary of what is digital marketing exactly.
So Linda, digital marketing is really to leverage or to exploit all the digital tools available with you, whether it is as simple as a Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and getting these audiences uh, or introducing your nonprofit, your cause to these audiences who are on these particular platforms and convincing them that your charity or your cause is apt for them to give. Now, you'll be surprised to note the numbers that about 60 to 70% of people above 70, that's the older population, also give through digital means. So those days of writing a check, or handing over cash while you're there at the church is still there, and it will be there, but you'll get a lot of even older people using digital tools, and the giving generation that is coming the millennials, the 20, 30, 40-year-olds who are in the prime of giving, who have the money to give, are all on digital platforms. In fact, 80% of them are giving through digital means. So that's the power of digital giving right now.
Right. Well, I can certainly attest to that. I'm happy to admit that I'm 82 years old and I write about one check a year. In fact, the other day I had to write a check for a charity that the easiest way to do it was to give them a check. And I thought, now where is my checkbook? Let me see where it is. And it was really honestly the first check I've written in probably at least 6 months. So I agree with you that we sometimes categorize people thinking, well, the older people don't get this. They do, trust me, because many of my friends are operate the same way I do, strictly digital, and I very seldom write out a check. But
Yeah,
what are
and, and,
you think,
and
Raja?
Linda,
Oh,
Linda, when you're sending money to your kids, most often you're sending it through the Zelle.
right,
When you go to
exactly.
your Walmart, you're most often using your card, right? To
Hmm.
pay, you're not paying cash, you're using your card. So that's everything is digital, right? So
Right. And I
the
have
same.
electronic giving to my church. It comes out of my checking account automatically every week or every month. So I'm a big fan of this. But tell me, what do you think are the most effective strategies for nonprofits to use with digital marketing?
Okay, so the most effective strategy uh, is to do something called a 360-degree digital marketing, right? And a 360-degree digital marketing is leveraging all digital channels, right? So you must have heard of Google. Google has a gives out grants for nonprofits. It's up to $10,000 a month. Using that, using Facebook, which has about 70% reach in America. Use YouTube increasing their very new platform to tell stories. It's a visual platform. It's a video platform. You tell them your stories. If you want to make short videos, it's whether you're using a TikTok or whether you're using Instagram, you use all these channels together. You remember those times where you used to, where those mailers in envelopes used to come and get in your mailbox, used to open them and find a letter of appeal. So that letter of appeal now comes through your email, right? So that's a digital. So the form of that letter has changed. So it's a concentrated of effort of all these that will is what what defines digital marketing. So
You've mentioned a couple different media that people can use. Which social media do you think are the most effective to use for fundraising?
okay, so what we have noticed is crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is um, very successful now, particularly when you want to raise some uh, quick money for a particular cause that you're very passionate about. Storytelling through videos. Videos become a very powerful medium to, and hence YouTube. So YouTube, you leverage a YouTube platform, you leverage a Google, leverage a GoFundMe platform, you leverage a Facebook platform. All of these platforms are excellent too. But success comes with telling great stories. How to really put your point across through a compelling story. I think that is what works. Linda.
You've mentioned a lot of social media, and many nonprofits, I think, work on trying to build up a good mailing list. How effective do you think email marketing is for these nonprofits?
I think email marketing, Linda, this is a very good question that you asked. Email marketing is very effective. Okay. And I think email marketing is by far the cheapest and a very effective way to be in touch with your donors. Now, there are pitfalls because uh, for most nonprofits, uh, you know, uh, they overdo it because it's free. they overdo it. I don't think that works. What works is to have uh, a very solid proposition, and how the proposition is being carried forward through emailers. Again, email marketing is very effective when there's something called a quarterly newsletter that must go out from nonprofit, which summarizes uh, the utilization of donations, right? So how effective has been these donations in running your program. So you shouldn't overdo it. You should only use it to be very strategic in yours. But don't use email marketing only for asking for money or donations. Use it for communication, to be in touch and build relationships with donors. That is what works. But unfortunately, most email marketing ends up in only asking for money.
I think you made a really good point there that a lot of nonprofits tend to think tactically instead of strategically. And I really like the fact that you brought out that you have to think about all of this digital marketing in your overall strategy for your nonprofit. I know one thing that's been popular lately are virtual events and webinars, things like that. How can nonprofits really tap into using these virtual events to do fundraising?
Okay, so let me take an example of a nonprofit called Lifespheres, which we've been working on, and you've also met them. So what I told them, and this is because this is a live, this is a live example, and they used to meet the typical, the statutory requirement of meeting once a year for the board. It's just once a year. So I told Diana that you must meet 4 times a year. Okay, you must meet 4 times a year, not just the board. Bring in a lot of other stakeholders. So who are these stakeholders? Excuse me. They could be some potential donors. They could be some volunteers. They could be some program partners. So the last meeting, which was about 30, uh, uh, really worked in the sense that they were in various parts of the globe. They came to this webinar. We could tell them what was going on and what is going to be uh, our program in the next 3 months. And a lot of them then got was charged up and then got the enthusiasm to go back and spread the message and find some new potential donors. So I think that is the way. I think it's about the effectiveness of the webinar. One. Another place where webinars can be very effective is communicating with your volunteers. So typically nowadays, volunteers are typically young people, right? Young people who, for them, finding time and coming to a scheduled event becomes very difficult. But, so I've seen volunteers joining from the phone in their car while driving, right? And I think those are the places where uh, uh, a digital form of meeting and communication has become very effective. Also, for a lot of small to mid-sized nonprofits who cannot have uh, you know, this um, these outings or meetings, which are very expensive. So this is a better alternative of being in touch with all the stakeholders.
You mentioned the nonprofit's budget, and I think that's a really important factor, especially for the new nonprofits or the smaller ones. How do they compete with some of the larger nonprofits that you have mentioned earlier in paying for digital marketing? Are there some cost-effective ways they can use digital marketing that aren't going to break their budget?
I think, Linda, the best thing about digital marketing is that it has democratized fundraising. So today, a small nonprofit is at an equal footing for a large nonprofit, and I'll tell you why. So earlier, if you thought that if you have a lot of money. If you have a good foundation backing, then you can go out and find new donors, etc. So, but today, if you can really tell powerful stories, you can tell those stories to a select group of people and get them interested in your cause through digital means. I think it's extremely effective for them. This for a small to a mid-size, and and there is a chance that your story goes viral, and you land up raising $10,000 in 10 hours. Okay, as little as 10 hours. So if that's the power of multiplication of media, right? So you don't need to advertise on a Super Bowl, right, for $2.8 million for 30 seconds. And but if you have a powerful story to say, it'll work. Then that's what works. And it's free of cost. But the best thing is it doesn't happen all the time, but if you consistently do it, consistently can convince people, it'll work.
Okay. You've mentioned storytelling several times, and I think storytelling is really an important part of fundraising. That's the first step. Second step is story listening, where you listen to the donor's story. But when you're telling your story, what do you think are the key messages that nonprofits should get across in their storytelling?
I think the mistake that most nonprofits do is jumping into asking.
Mhm.
Okay, so this typically happens, and this happens because the donor stewardship is missing, right? So that the story has to be said, narrated in a very structured way, and you'll have to seed in, you'll have to seed in the mission and vision of whatever your nonprofit is there out for. Give enough social proof that you're really serious about what you're doing. Number two. Number three is that what you're doing has impacted these number of people. Then the ask becomes automatic. In fact, you don't need to ask also. The money starts coming in. So you should never jump the first two steps and move on to the third. So that is where the problem with storytelling is. And it has to be a sequence of stories. And the best thing, Linda, is that with YouTube, you can start with smaller stories, then get into a larger story. There are various formats of the medium. And today, with a lot of platforms that have come in where the editing can be done on the fly, you don't need expensive resources to come in. And you can do it yourself if you know basic stuff. And it's really the effort that you need to put in behind it, and uh, then it succeeds.
I think that storytelling component is so important. In fact, you may be aware of my Learn with Linda program, where I offer 18 online courses, and one of them is on building your case for support, which is another way of telling your story. And I always tell people, and you'll learn this if you take my course, that you don't ever want to appear needy when you approach people like, oh, if we don't raise this money, we're going to have to close our doors. Nobody wants to support a sinking ship, basically. So I think it's really what you said is really important, that you have to take things in context of what's going to really convince this donor to give. And it's not the fact that you might go broke next week if you don't get money. What they're going to get excited about is your vision. What are you doing to change your community or your country or the world for some organizations? So I think you made some really great points here. And I know we don't want to spend too much time, but do you have some final thoughts about what people should consider when they think about going into digital marketing?
Okay, so the first is obviously having a digital marketing plan. And the problem is digital marketing is equated to social media presence for a lot of small nonprofits, which is absolutely incorrect. So social media is part of a bigger digital marketing strategy. So digital marketing strategy should start is, who's your audience and where you're going to find those audiences. Who's your potential donor? Where are you going to find your potential donor? So the potential donors may be on Facebook, maybe on Instagram. It is likely that they are there because those are the largest mediums. So obviously, by by the method of probability, you'll be finding there. But whether you'll be hitting the right target is again a big question. So there are a lot of databases out there, so which you can also tap to get your first list of potential donors. And these databases are uh, given through the major give ramp up. It's given through the donor search platform. So once you get the database, then you start your digital conversation with them. So what are those digital conversations? You could be sending them a first welcome mail, that, hey, look, this is our nonprofit, this is what we do. And you just start seeding in. So that is the process that comes in later. Finding new donors through all potential donors can also come in to the Google Grants program, right? So you run the Google Grants program and see people who are interested in your program and start your conversation. So various uh, uh, you know uh, ways in which you can put your data in the funnel. Once you have them in the funnel, then you start bringing them down the funnel, starting more intimate conversations, your good old phone calls, right? So call them up. They might go into a voicemail box or whatever. Doesn't matter. Call them up, leave a message, say that you'd called up, tell them about your nonprofit. Don't ask them about money then. And then build that relationship, and it is definitely going to, uh, it's going to work. So that's how the process of digital. So the best thing about digital marketing is that it has the capacity of reaching a more number of people. So earlier, when digital marketing was not there, the amount of time, effort, money that was required to reach more of these people was lot, which is why a lot of larger nonprofits had an unfair advantage, right? So, but this is not the case right now. So.
I think I remember when I first started in this field, direct mail was really big. It's still used by a lot of the bigger organizations, but frankly, I think many people are like me. I look at direct mail and I think, how many trees gave up their life for this mail to get sent out to thousands and thousands of people? And frankly, I throw most of it right in the recycling bin. I don't even open it. There are very rare occasions that I'll give to a direct mail appeal. But if somebody approaches me by, as you said, picking up the phone, talking to me, or emailing me and providing good stewardship, that's what really is important to me. So my advice to anyone who wants to get into this direct digital marketing program, first of all, you can certainly look at my courses and see some courses like Building Your Case for Support, How to Tell Your Story Right. But then I would also get ready to contact Raja, and we'll give you his contact information because he's an expert in this. I am not an expert in digital marketing. I am the first to admit that. But he's a lot younger than I am, and he's been doing this for a lot of years. So I highly encourage you to contact Raja to see if he can help your organization get started with digital marketing. So Raja, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with?
So I would like to know, Linda, that uh, during your time when there was no digital marketing, what was the most effective ways of getting to new donors?
Well, it was hard. And a lot of people, though, miss the fact that almost every organization has alumni. And you might think, well, I'm not a school, I don't have alumni. And my first job was in a university where we had thousands of alumni to reach out to. But we didn't stop there. We approached the business community. We went to business people in our community and said, this is what we're doing for the community. A lot of our programs are in things like nursing and criminal justice, where people go through these programs and become police officers, nurses, doctors, things like that, and teachers. So we had something to really market to the community that we're a benefit to your community and we're trying to make the community better. So it is a much greater challenge though before digital marketing existed. And before I was in fundraising, I worked for a bank, and I remember, I am so old that I remember being fascinated by the fax machine when it first came out. And today, of course, nobody even uses fax machines. So you do have to be adaptable and look at what's working today and what's going to work with. And I think you made a really good point earlier that it's not just the younger people that are into digital marketing. Like I said, I do almost all my giving online, and it's just much more convenient for me as a donor. And as long as the organization does a good job of stewarding me as a donor, I'm going to continue to give them. So don't ignore those small donors that you might have now, because they might be bigger donors sometime in the future. So I want to thank Raja for his time. I think this has been very productive, and I hope you learned something about digital marketing that will help you go forward with your nonprofit and find those new donors and contact those new donors in the right way. And we're looking forward to continued podcasts where we'll be telling you more about all different aspects of fundraising. So I want to thank everyone for your time, and I want to especially thank my dear friend Raja, who has been so helpful to me. I can tell you he's helped my digital marketing a lot. I'm not a nonprofit, but not intentionally anyway. So, but he's been a big help to me, and I know he would be a big help to you as well. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.